Marvel Rivals Season 1 is officially out, and with it, it brought Reed Richards and Sue Storm, aka Mr. Fantastic and the Invisible Woman. I want to go through their kits here, but I don't want to just give you like a breakdown of them. I want to tell you some either tips or tricks, or really more like how I think they're going to be used, who they're going to be good with, how they're going to be like maybe not so good, you know, like who's going to counter them per se. Stuff like that, and then kind of like theory craft some meta stuff about like where they might fit in, who they're going to be good with. Of course, halfway through the season, we will be getting The Thing and Johnny Storm, aka the Human Torch, and so that might actually change it because they all get Sue's team up in some form or fashion. And that could shake up things in about a month and a half here. But we have these two here now. I want to go through and talk about them. Strengths, weaknesses, how well I think they are going to perform this season. Let's go ahead and start with Mr. Fantastic here. Mr. Absolute weirdo guy. Again, we're not going to like run through his abilities as like a what they do type of thing. I just want to show you some things that, you know, that might be interesting or might be really relevant to how they're going to play. So I think right now, I think a lot of people, myself included, think that Mr. Fantastic is probably a little underpowered, but I see something here. And I see there is a world where he may never, ever, ever, ever die. I think when you just jump into quick play games, you got random supports, you know, a mix of PC and console players, everybody's on the same, like, different pages because nobody's grouped up together. This guy is going to feel like maybe not doing so much, but if you are coordinating, you've got maybe like a 3 support backline, even 2 supports. I think this guy can really, really shine and just be a complete like he can have the uptime of like Captain America, where he's just surviving, but much higher damage presence. And I think that's going to be really important. Now, do I think it's actually going to happen? I'm not so sure, but let's talk about a couple of things with him. Now, he has a decently long range, but you are going to start feeling, you know, as you're trying to get through these maps, it's not going to be as long as you really want it to be. That is going to be kind of an issue trying to get through a lot of this stuff. But I do want to show you something that is going to really matter against teams that are grouped up. You can move your fists after you've punched them. You see, you can watch my fist go somewhere else here. Watch this. I can hit this galactic... Oh, I can miss them both. I can hit this galactic bot and then pull it over. See that? I got 2 hits there. That's going to be really big because not only does that do a lot of damage, and again, it's not that much damage. His, what's it called? His fire rate isn't that high, but it's really good for building your ult. And I think that is going to be really, really important. You don't get any extra like elasticity from this, which to be honest with you, I think you probably should. You should be able, in my opinion, you should get less elasticity from your abilities and more from hitting people. So you're actually encouraged to hit multiple people and use that mechanic. That's just me right now. I think it's totally fine. But I think that's going to be like, that's going to be really important. So Mr. Fantastic is going to be really good against teams that group up against each other. Not necessarily against random like people. He's not a very good duelist on his own. At least in terms of kill threat, in my opinion. Now, of course, he's got plenty of things to offset that, right? Like he's got this, where he can go there, and of course he goes big. And if you're in the range when he's gone big, you are going to be cooked. So it's kind of strange, right? When you're in like an actual team fight, I don't think Reed Richards should be like going off to like, you know, kill somebody else, right? Like he should be like really at the forefront trying to do as much clean as possible. I didn't mention it, but his, what's it called? His big mode also has the exact same property. And it's much better in this, in my opinion, because, what's it called? He does much more damage. So that is actually going to be like really relevant. Now, I actually think we're going to skip his abilities. No, we should do his abilities first. So when you're using the right click ability, I have found that pulling 2 people together is really not that useful, at least so far. Now, I do see a world where it can be used. You see how they both kind of like pop up into the air? You know, that could be good. Like, oh, I'm pulling. You pull them up in the air, somebody shoots them. I do think that there is some merit there. But in general, when you're just playing this character on ranked or ladder or whatever, I think the most effective thing you should do is to just pull them both. Because, or like put both on one person and pull them, because that is going to be a lot more valuable to you specifically. And I think it's easier for your team to understand that somebody has gotten pulled into them rather than they got like jumped up into the air, right? But I can see there's a possibility for both. I just also think that the damage that you get from doing this is much greater. And then since you get elasticity from doing this, you know, if I just right-click somebody and pull them to me, well, now I'm going big, and I can, like, you know, follow up like that. That's why another reason why I think that that's going to be much more effective than purely just, you know, doing whatever this one is, right? Even though you can pull them, you know, a considerable distance, it's not that relevant so far when I've been playing this character yet. The other thing about this character that gains elasticity is that move. So since it gives overhealth and it does damage, it actually does damage regardless of how close you are. I don't know if there's a great like place I can show it, but let's say this galactic bot is like literally right here. I can just bounce to that galactic bot and do the damage if I'm close enough. The thing about this ability that you have to know is that I'm pretty sure it always gives the overhealth to your allies, but sometimes you can definitely miss giving the damage to enemies. So when you are dashing to somebody, be aware that if they're moving a lot or if they have a lot of movement abilities, they might just miss out on all that damage. So in my opinion, the best thing that you can probably do is to dash to an ally and hope that you can hit an enemy as well, because then you'll be in range, right? You know, just do whatever. I'm just trying to get into the elasticity range. Then I come to my ally here, give them the overhealth, and now I'm taking the aggro, right? So I'm actually kind of doing like a faux support role there. And the thing about Mr. Fantastic I think is really interesting is that I don't think this game has off tanks per se like Overwatch does. If they did have one, I think it's Mr. Fantastic, because literally he just comes in, you know, somebody takes space, they take aggro. Let me say this, like, this is Doctor Strange. I go to him, I give him overhealth, and now I'm here, and now I'm like really like a threat, right? So then he's got time to get his resources back, and then once my overhealth and my big mode is gone, then I go away, and then it helps them. But I also think Mr. Fantastic is really good with what's it called? Flankers, people who kind of dive in, because giving them overhealth not only is good, but again, if you're managing your elasticity correctly, you know, just kind of like making sure you're like always ready to get in there, right? You know, let's say my Wolverine has just jumped them. I go in there, give him shields, and now I'm shooting whatever he's jumped, or whoever is still in the vicinity around him. And I think that's really, really important, and can be really good. Otherwise, he has this ability, which, to be honest with you, it's really just to keep you alive. There isn't that much. It doesn't do that much damage, even when you block a lot of, you know, what's it called? A lot, the full 300. It is possible to get kills with it. Yes, it is a projectile. You can, like, snipe somebody in the back line. It is possible. But in general, I definitely think you use this button to make sure you don't die to ults, because you just don't take damage. You're unstoppable and you don't take damage, which, how good of a design is that in my opinion? Not much. I don't really agree with just being completely immune to actually everything. You can break it early, I guess. That's the only silver lining here. But then again, he's also going to blast afterwards, and he can't use other abilities. So yes, there is more to it. I'm just complaining for the sake of complaining. I do like this character. He's really grown on me, but I don't think this ability is something that you should pop out just randomly. You know, I don't think this is going to help you. You're super slow. This doesn't really help you get in that much. You know, you don't go very far. So I think this is definitely something you just use mid-fight, especially after, you know, your big mode, right? You take a lot of aggro when you do this, and, you know, people are going to shoot you, and then when your shields are gone, like, they don't regenerate. Like, your overhealth does not regenerate. So leaving this and then going right into this is a good way to keep yourself in the front line, get yourself healed up, and then go again. You know, cycle your cooldowns. It actually gives you a lot of time for your cooldowns to come back, and you be able to do your cycle again, right? That is kind of like, I think, how this character is going to really play, is to just cycle, right? Just be a nuisance, blah, blah, blah. They can't kill me, they can't kill me. Again, by the time this is done, look at that. I have all my abilities back, and I'm elastic again. Now, while we're here, let's use this ult. One thing you notice is that he keeps the overhealth if he was in big mode when he uses his ult. That is something you definitely should be doing, because otherwise he is extremely squishy. Something else you could be doing is that I can't really show it off here because I don't have a Susan Storm, is that right before you go into your big mode, and to be honest with you, what's it called? Elastic Strength. I'm calling it big mode. Right before you go into your big mode, if you have an invisible woman on your team, you should be popping your damage resistance, because that does count for your big mode, and it will count specifically in your ult. I think he is really vulnerable in his ult, even though he can't be stunned, just because he's so big and it's so easy to see where he's going, because he jumps up in the air and he makes a really big ruckus. So it's really easy to kill him. He doesn't get anything from slamming on people. Even if he just pops his ult like this, look at that. I don't get any over shields for going in, even though I am big, like it looks like I should. I don't get any. So that is something that you really need to keep in mind with this character. His ult is not very good. It's one of the weaker ults in the game, if I had to guess right now. Now, you might have seen clips on Twitter of people, you know, getting under something like this and basically making it go faster. And there are definitely points in the game where that is super relevant. Oops, sorry. A couple of choke points, a couple of tiny little rooms. That is actually going to matter a lot. It's going to up that DPS in like insane amounts. The burst damage is crazy. That is not a majority of the places in the game. And I think that is the one thing that you really have to be, you know, mindful of, because you will keep going until, you know, you'll do 3 bounces at least, and you'll keep going up to 6, I believe, if you hit people in them. But be warned, do not just keep using it just because you have to, right? Don't just keep going further and further into the backline. This is how I think you should probably be using this a lot of the time. I jump, 1, 2, 3, I got my kill, I go away. It stops it, I can go back and do my stuff, right? I don't want to just be like bouncing and bouncing and bouncing, especially on a support ult, especially on I mean, a lot of the supports, if they're just looking at each other, you can't kill them unless you've got, again, some cover up top to make you go faster, make you drop faster. You're not really going to kill them. So this is really, I would say, an ability that can bait out ults and abilities more than it is something that is really a threat, right? It's not going to be very good. You actually have a little bit of control about when you cancel it, which I think is really important. Like, do not sleep on the ability to leave your ult early. I think that is really going to matter a lot. So basically, yeah, that is Reed Richards, right? He is an uptime demon. He protects his allies. He's really, really weird. There's a couple other things that I'm like, I think you can do with Reed. Like, you see that bot up there? Well, that could either be, you know, it could be an ally or an enemy. And then I can go up to them, and now I'm on the high ground. Now I'm like a really big threat on like an off angle or something. That's another thing that you can be doing on Reed, is that if you see somebody on the side, don't like hard duel them, but you can definitely put some pressure on them and make sure they go away, because you can use this ability. Or you see a flanker go that way, you know your front line is covered, let's say you got a Strange or something, you can go help them, you know, you can go give them the overhealth. That again is like really, really valuable. So I think there's a world where Reed Richards has like a place in the meta, but right now it seems a lot harder to get the value out of him. We'll have to see. I think this is one of those characters that you could abuse if you have the right team comp, you have the right people around him. Let's talk about some things that are really good with Reed Richards. A couple of characters that I think are really, really nice to have, and you know, a couple of characters that might give him a lot of trouble. So in general, let's just talk about like support ults: Cloak and Dagger ult, Mantis ult, Luna ult, Invisible Woman ult. You can't do anything to these. Like, obviously, most people can't. I mean, I will say, like, you can pull people out of the radius, but, you know, if it's like these two, they can follow and, you know, make sure they're okay. If it's Invisible Woman, you can't, because you can't target them in there. And in fact, if you have a hand on somebody and you're about to like pull them or pull somebody else, really them, and they walk into the thing, you can't target them anymore. So you're just sitting there with your hand on them, and you can't do anything, and you can't release it until the timer goes down. That's something to be aware of. If they go invisible, that is something to be aware of. Another thing that Mr. Fantastic is really weak against is really high DPS output, like really big burst damage, like CC in particular, because if he's in his big mode, he takes a second to leave it and then get into his like wall form. So if you have a good stun like Hela, like, I mean, even like Scarlet Witch, anything like that, it's going to be tough for him to actually like survive. Like, he can just blow up even from 800 health because, again, he is so big. So I think a lot, like, you know, especially, you know, you can keep your distance from him. You can chunk him down. Obviously, like a Hela and a Hawkeye are going to like I mean, Hawkeye is going to have a field day with this guy. He is insanely big, no protection. Like, yeah, that is something to keep in mind. Now, Hawkeye shouldn't be able to one-shot him anymore in his regular mode because he has 350. I'm pretty sure after the nerfs, but he's going to do a lot of damage to him in the big mode and be able to get that charge up, so be careful there. Also, this guy does struggle a little bit with mobility. I think Groot is probably really good to like block him off because, again, when he leaves his team, he's going to be leaving by grabbing them, right? And also remember that the grab range is not very far. So if you're able to displace him at all, like Invisible Woman, pull him into you further away from his team, he's going to struggle to actually get out because he's too far of a distance. You know, Groot, if you put up walls behind him, he's going to try and turn around and leave an ally, and no one's going to be there because he can't target anybody. That's a really good Mr. Fantastic killer if he's over aggressing, right? Otherwise, I don't think anyone is like too particularly strong against him. I actually think he is decent against flyers because he can like pull himself up to them, if they're playing close. You know, obviously if an Iron Man is a million miles away, that's a different story. But, you know, if Storm is with her team, I think he actually has a decent matchup in the Storm because even her ult, like, you know, he's got his wall thing. Her ult can't really do anything to him. And he can, like, check her with his arms and stuff like that. So there's a decent amount that he can do against flyers compared to other tanks. I think that is the best way to put that. But yeah, and also, like, if somebody gets dove, if somebody gets flanked, you know, like a Spider-Man, you know, he can just run to them, grab them, make sure they're okay, be a pressure, be a force, damage them as well. Like, there's a lot that he does there. Let's talk about some of the characters that I think he's really good with. I talked about characters like Wolverine, the ones that want to, like, get in and kind of stay in. Wolverine, Iron Fist, spoiler alert, Invisible Woman is also good with these characters too, and we'll talk about why. But anyone who wants to take like a soft angle or something, they can be a little more aggressive, make sure they're in LOS of their Mr. Fantastic. He jumps to them, gives them overhealth. Now he's there to help strengthen the deal. Again, he's really good in small corridors. I'm trying to think, there's nobody in this game that can create platforms. If there were somebody in this game that could create platforms, I think he would be crazy with them because you could like guarantee your ult goes down faster. But yeah, other things to note, like characters that are messed up by CC, you know, I think are really susceptible to him. Just throwing both his things and grabbing them, pulling them forward, definitely going to be the most relevant there. I'm trying to think what other characters. He's pretty good with most tanks. Like, I'm pretty sure like no tank is going to be upset to have a Mr. Fantastic with him because he can always supplement them, and kind of like it's a really easy dynamic of like, I'm going to come in, I'm going to jump to you, I'm going to take your aggro, you're going to leave, heal up, then I'm going to leave, you're going to come back, right? So no tanks are ever like, oh damn, I have a Fantastic on my team. A little bit of anti-synergy with Groot for the same reasons why Groot is good against him, but otherwise all good there. I think I've probably said my piece here with Mr. Fantastic. Let's talk about the Invisible Woman, because I think that this character might be, you know what, I'm just gonna say it, pardon my French, fucked up. I think this character is actually going to be extremely strong, extremely relevant. Now, one thing you got to note with her primary fire is that, you know, if you're grouped up, especially if you have a lot of tanks that are going to stack on each other, you know, like a double shield composition, or even like, you know, just you have like Reed Richards and Strange or somebody like that. Since her healing goes through everybody and comes back, you can provide absolutely insane healing to all of them. She is like the main healer dream, not like main support in Overwatch, but just like the general, like, I'm gonna make sure I'm looking at the team, everything. She's like BAP. In my opinion, she is able to heal up a team as effectively as a Baptiste can. In fact, much more. Just because, I mean, like, look at this. They're like never gonna die. And on top of that, she can hurt enemies too. So she does so much cleave damage on top of all the healing that she does. I don't think she's going to be particularly strong with characters that go on like hard flanks, at least in this. Like, she's not going to be able to save them. But the other thing that she can do to heal is put the shield up, right? So one thing you should know about this is that if you put this close to an ally, you can heal yourself without having to go invisible. That is, I think that is actually really relevant. But this might be inflammatory. This might be, I don't know. This might be controversial. I think the shield might be one of the best abilities in the game. Like, just straight up, this is crazy. The fact that she can place this down, no cooldown, the second it reaches an ally, it heals them. She can retract it at will, and it only has like a 1 second cooldown if she retracts it. I think if it takes damage, maybe more. Never mind. If it breaks, it's only a 6 second cooldown, and it always puts it directly in front of her allies, and heals them at the same time. So let's say, you know, my Iron Man has jumped up to the corner here. I just put a shield there, and now my Iron Man has flying in the sky. I have created cover for him, and I can heal him in the process. So I can put that up there and go help heal my team. Or I can just put it on a teammate in the front, and that's more AoE sustain healing. Now, I understand that her primary fire is not actually AoE, but it can kind of effectively be AoE. You know what I mean? Just because they hit so many people at the same time without really having to aim it. I mean, like, yes, you do have to aim it, but like when you're just kind of spamming into your entire team and into an enemy, how much are you actually aiming there, right? How much are you actually doing there? So that is, you know, her healing output, I think, is much crazier than I think a lot of people give her credit for. It is actually absolutely insane. But also, like, again, with the bubble, like, somebody just jumps into the front line, jumps in there, they make a risky play, boom, it heals them and blocks anything that was coming their way. And then, like, even if they don't break it, I just retract it, I'm healing them in the process, and then I put it back down again before it breaks. Stuff like that. Like, it is actually, like, I think it is actually crazy. Just like what this character can do. And like, she's not like a super competent duelist, but like the damage that she does is crazy, especially if you are just like spamming down. You're going to be building your ult insanely fast. You're going to be doing a lot of damage to people. Mix that with this ability, which I actually do need to check something here. It just continually draws in enemies and does damage. Crazy cleave damage, right? This character already does really good cleave like this if she's shooting into her team and her enemies. Now, like, I mean, look at the damage that she does. Like, yes, these are training bots, but when people are all grouped together, it really does add up, especially on top of all the damage that your team is doing. And again, even if you don't kill anything, you're building that ult extremely quickly. I cannot stress enough how quickly this character gets her ult. We will talk about her ult in a second because I think it is also one of the almost S-tier ults. You know, it's no Luna, but again, we'll talk about it in a second. The other ability she has, obviously, is her push and her pull. And the fact that this, you know, you do have to aim it slightly. Yeah, you do have to aim it. Well, you do have to aim it, but it hits multiple people. And you get to choose whether it's a pull or a push. Now, I think there's merit to both the pull and the push, although I will say the push goes a lot further and is going to be a lot more important to her self-survivability, because otherwise her other survivability tool is this, where she goes invis, and if she has to go invis to heal herself, she has to stay out of the fight. But again, I don't think that's as relevant, one, because she has this, which can keep people off of her, and two, she has this, that if she's close to an ally, after she jumps away or jumps to them, now she's got healing for herself. So that is also really important to note on this character, is that you do not have to use you do not have to be invis nearly as long as you think you might have to. Her invis doesn't activate by itself very, like, what's it called? You know, like, it takes a couple seconds. Like, I'll leave combat and I'll show you. You know, I still haven't gotten it. There we go, finally. That is not very relevant in the grand scheme of things because this character's uptime really does need to be high and really is high. The other thing, the pull, I think is actually pretty good, especially inside of your ult, where you can pull them into somewhere where nobody's gonna be able to see them. That is actually like pretty relevant, I would say. Hold on, I'm just making sure. And yeah, and also enemies are slowed when they walk through it, so like you can keep them in there for longer. That is also pretty good. But also, like, don't remember, this is a good disruption tool. This can save your allies either way, pushing or pulling. That is really good. That can mess up a lot of characters. I think Wolverine is like really bad into Invisible Woman, because the second Wolvie tries to go do something, he's just like, okay, sorry, buddy. You grab somebody, I'm just gonna throw this at you. Stuff like that. But literally, like, all flankers are bad against her. Then the other thing before we get to her ult is the invis, obviously. But since it is tied to her double jump, there's actually like some interesting interactions here, because melee characters are going to struggle to keep up with her once she does this, right? Because she instantly goes invisible and she jumps into the sky, and that's really important, right? She's going to jump directly up very fast. It's going to be really hard to track her. Most melee characters can't even reach that far. But characters like Star-Lord or Punisher probably going to have a decent time keeping up with her. They're going to be tracking her anyways. The second she hits that double jump button, they're going to be shooting her still. Boom. No invis, no self-healing, no escape, right? That is really relevant. So that's also why I don't think the invis is that important. I don't think it is the biggest thing and the most important thing to worry about, because she has other ways to keep herself alive. And I think they're much more, they're much more powerful and allow her to keep her uptime up. And that's why I think this character is crazy, because all of her weaknesses have some way to offset that. And that's why I like this character. I mean, it's just kind of crazy. I do think on average the push is probably probably better than the pull, but the pull can definitely have a lot of uses. And the reason why I say you can use it either way is because all of her cooldowns are so short. I mean, obviously she can keep having the shield up and up and up and up, but the push, that's only on an 8-second cooldown, and that can hit multiple people and does a pretty sizable amount of damage for, this ability that just kind of comes out instantly at that range, right? So, on a support. So, with all that being said, like, it's the uptime on this character. She's always up. She's always doing something. It's kind of crazy. Is it overloaded? There's a possibility. I mean, compared to the other supports in this game, every support in this game is just fucking crazy. Oops, excuse me. I'm gonna get YouTube. But they really are crazy. Then her ult, of course, which you can just place it down, and you can place it really fast too. You got 8 seconds of healing over time, slowing enemies, which I wouldn't use to specifically slow them. Like, I wouldn't just throw it on the enemies just so they get slowed. It is for your team. Let's be real. But the really important thing I think about this is that it makes your allies invisible, which means that even though the healing per second may be lower than like a Luna ult or a Mantis ult, they can't see people. They can't do consistent damage. So effectively, you are keeping them alive just as long or just as much as one of those other AoE sustain ults. So this ult, in my opinion, is pretty crazy. You cannot interact with it. You cannot kill anybody in it. Now, there are a couple obvious exceptions, like you could throw an Iron Man ult into it. But for the most part, like, again, it's going to be enough to where everyone's going to be okay. Everyone's just going to be staring at each other. And a really important thing about it too is that, let me show you. Enemies, if you go into it as an enemy, your allies can't really see exactly where you are. They can see like an after image of where you were, but they can't see exactly where you are. So it actually makes it harder to heal people and to make sure they're okay inside of it, because your vision is limited. So it has a lot of effects on it, which can be really kind of annoying. Like, she just kind of throws it super fast, right? Like, I mean, you can just see like it comes down instantly, and there you go. Like, somebody can be at full health just instantly. Now you just can't interact with them for 8 seconds because they're invisible and they're getting healed over time. Now, the downside to this obviously is that you can't, like, what's it called? You can't move with it, like it's in one set spot. But again, Sue Storm has ways to offset that. Push people into it, pull people back into it, push people out of it to get away from her team, stuff like that. there's a lot you can do to it. If you're standing inside, you can see everybody inside. Let me make that clear. If you are standing inside, you can see everybody who's also inside of it. But yeah, I think this ult is sleeper. I mean, maybe not sleeper. I mean, she came out a day ago, but I think her ult is really good. I think everything in her kit, like, there is no bad part of her kit, and I think she might have like some of the strongest, like, she seriously has some of the strongest tools in the game, and they are on extremely short cooldowns for their strength, which is crazy to me. Like, she is always doing something. Like, you know, I think she's going to be really good in, like, you know, double support compositions, triple support compositions, because she does the damage and the healing, but she also could be okay as just like the one support. So long as your team is okay with like kind of stacking a little more, and not taking as many angles and flanks, which maybe, you know, the comp itself is not very good, but her role in it is easy enough, I think. So yeah, that's her. Let's talk about some of her like strengths, you know, to team up with. I think obviously Reed Richards is going to be a very easy one. Obviously has to team up as well, but just in general, like, she works really well with character or healers that can heal up flankers and other characters, right? So like Rocket, you don't need that, right? Rocket heals the team. He heals multiple people at once. She does this exceptionally. You don't need that. Adam, she's probably pretty good with Adam. She can help peel for him and keep people off of him. Luna can snowball her flankers, and you can just focus on the front line. Maybe a little too much healing, but again, sustaining this game is really good, so I don't think there really is a thing as too much healing. Mantis, I think, is a perfect example of where Mantis can focus on making sure the flankers have seeds and damage boost, and you can focus on the front line and make sure they are good to go. Loki is going to be focusing a lot more on, I think, being on the angle and healing the front line, just because of how his clones work, is less so helping other people. I think Cloak and Dagger could focus on the other people, since they do like what, single target. So they could focus on the flankers and trying to help them duel. I think that's good. And then Jeff, no, I wouldn't play her with Jeff. You're probably just wasting a lot of utility you could get. Otherwise, though, I think Sue, again, is exceptionally strong with these tanks that are not very mobile, who are just going to be kind of sitting in the front. Strange, Groot, Magneto, even Penny, those characters who are going to be stacked a little more on each other. But also, again, I told you, I think she's really good with flyers, with that shield. I also think she's really good with characters that want to get in and stay in a little more, right? Wolverine, Iron Fist. They get in, they cause chaos. She puts the shield down in front of them. She heals them up in the process. You know, she wants to play a little closer to everybody because her range is effectively shorter, but like it can be really good. But even in general, like even with flankers, right? I know I talk about how she wants to focus on the front line a lot, but she gives a shield to a flanker. Now Hela has a lot more opportunities to work with. Now Widow, I guess, you know, etc., etc., etc. Scarlet Witch tries to ult. They start shooting her, throw a shield on her. She walks in front of it, throw the shield back on her. She keeps walking in front of it. You see what I'm talking about? You see how ridiculous it is that that has no cooldown, where you can like throw the shield and people just like ignore it, and then you just throw another shield in front of them. You know, what's the point of like trying to? Anyways, I think this character is ridiculously strong. She's really, really good synergy with so many characters in the cast. Who is going to be good against her? I already talked about like characters like Punisher and Star-Lord, who have consistent like fast range hit scan fire. Even Penny is probably okay. I know it's not hit scan, but it's like, you know, like a machine gun. Doctor Strange I've actually found to be the same way, since he's got like a burst. It like does do. You can keep up with her. You can track her when she tries to go invisible, and you can. That's really, really good, right? That is another way. Like the only way that she's ever going to be able to stop an ult or like deny an ult, a lot of the ones that have like what's it called? Immunity to knockback, is either knowing it's going to happen and stopping it right before they hit the button, or using her invisibility to get away. Characters that can chase her down and effectively like AoE her. I think, you know, Fantastical is actually pretty good at finding Sue Storm, because she'll try and jump away and he goes really fast with it, right? I don't think Psylocke ult locks onto her when I actually have to test that. I don't think Psylocke ult would work. I'm trying to find the other AoE ults, but I think Mr. Fantastic is probably like one of the most effective at finding her. But yeah, there's that as well. Yeah, I think I think in general that's what I'm thinking with this character. So overall, I think Mr. Fantastic could be good in certain situations, but I think that Invisible Woman is very good, like undeniably extremely good. That's what I think of these characters. I like both their designs overall. Mr. Fantastic's kind of weird and silly, and I do like me a silly character, and Invisible Woman is just like, she's got all the really fun tools that you want, especially like the knockback. Like having a knockback on a support is just always fun. Do I think they have a little too much? Maybe not Reed Richards, but I think Invisible Woman might be a little overloaded. And really, I think it's not that she's overloaded. I think that she has stuff up too often. And also for Reed Richards, I think I would kind of change how you get elasticity, because right now it feels a little linear and it feels like you're just kind of dumping abilities randomly just to get up into the mode, rather than trying to make sure everyone is good enough. That's just me. We'll have to see what they want to do with him. But that is it for me. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please subscribe if you liked it, and like the video while you're at it. I am going to be doing Marvel and Overwatch content going forward. We'll see how much I do with Marvel. I don't think they're going to update as frequently, so we'll probably stay out of the realm of Marvel stuff only when they're in, like, you know, early seasons, mid seasons. I'll talk about The Thing and Johnny Storm and all of those when they come out. But subscribe, keep up to date when those happen, and watch me play it live at twitch.tv/LaneHemingway. That's Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. I play Overwatch and Marvel Rivals, and sometimes random other stuff. I play a lot of Balatro on stream nowadays as well. You should check that out. And join my Discord down below if you want to talk all things Overwatch and Marvel Rivals. Okay, thank you guys so much for watching, and please have a good day.